It was a quiet morning in the small town of Willow Creek, a place where everyone knew everyone, and life moved at a peaceful, predictable pace. Nothing much ever happened here. It was the kind of town where you could walk down the street and say hello to every neighbor, where people still helped each other out and where the pace of life seemed like it hadn't changed in decades. Little did they know, this town was about to be shaken by the arrival of someone, or rather something, completely unexpected. On this particular morning, the sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the sleepy town. Birds were chirping, children were playing outside, and the usual hustle and bustle of the early morning was in full swing. But something was different today. A new face had appeared in Willow Creek. Her name was Granny Lyra, though no one knew exactly where she came from. Granny Lyra was unlike any other elderly woman the town had ever seen. Her silver hair, neatly styled in a soft bun, shimmered under the sunlight. She wore simple but elegant clothes, a long light blue dress that seemed to flow gracefully as she moved, and a pair of delicate glasses perched on her nose. But there was something about her eyes, something that made people feel like she was looking right through them, like she knew them better than they knew themselves. At first, the people of Willow Creek thought nothing of it. An old woman moving into the neighborhood wasn't that strange. But what caught everyone's attention was how quickly Granny Lyra became the center of attention. Everywhere she went, she seemed to draw people in with her gentle smile and warm, soothing voice. Her presence was calming, as if her very being had the ability to make the world feel like a better place. She moved into a small, modest house on the outskirts of town, the kind of place that had been empty for years. The neighbors thought it was odd that she'd chosen such a quiet spot to settle in, but it didn't seem to matter. Granny Lyra quickly became the beloved figure in the community. She was always there to lend a hand. The elderly woman who lived next door, Mrs. Carter, had trouble getting her groceries every week, but Granny Lyra made sure she never had to worry. She'd appear at Mrs. Carter's door with a basket of food, smiling as though it were the most natural thing in the world. And when young Tommy, a boy from the local school, broke his leg during a game of soccer, Granny Lyra was there with a warm cup of tea and soft words that made him feel better almost instantly. The children adored her. They would rush to her house after school, drawn by the smell of homemade cookies and her soft motherly voice. Granny Lyra told them stories about magical lands, about creatures from the stars, and about how kindness was the most important thing in the universe. She was the grandmother everyone wished they had and more. But the townsfolk couldn't help but feel a little uneasy too. There were whispers that something about Granny Lyra just didn't seem quite right. Of course, no one would ever say anything out loud, especially not with the way she treated everyone. But some of the older folks in town began to notice strange things about her. For one, Granny Lyra seemed to know things she shouldn't. For example, when she'd meet people for the first time, it was as though she already knew their names, their families, their deepest worries. She'd smile and tell them little things about their lives that only someone who had known them for years would know. It wasn't that she was spying on them. It was more like she had some strange ability to understand their innermost thoughts. One afternoon, the mayor, Mr. Edwards, invited her over for tea. He was the one who had been most skeptical about her arrival in the town. He'd heard the rumors, the whispers, and couldn't shake the feeling that there was something otherworldly about her. But after spending just a few minutes with her, he couldn't help but be charmed by her warmth and hospitality. "Tell me, Granny Lyra," he asked, trying to sound casual. "Where are you from? You don't seem to be from around here." She looked at him with those deep, almost glowing eyes and smiled softly. "I'm from far away," she said gently. "Far from here, in a place where the stars speak and time doesn't move quite the same way." The mayor laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke, but then noticed the sincerity in her eyes. He smiled, trying to brush off the feeling of unease that had crept into his chest. But then, there was the thing with the stars. At night, Granny Lyra would often go outside, standing in her backyard and staring up at the sky. It wasn't just that she looked at the stars. She seemed to be communicating with them, People who lived nearby would often spot her at odd hours, standing motionless, her hands gently cupped in front of her chest, as if she were listening to something that no one else could hear. There were also the strange lights. Sometimes the townspeople would see unusual glowing lights in Granny Lyra's window at night. Soft and shimmering, they would flicker and pulse, as though something was moving inside the house. Of course, no one spoke of it openly. No one wanted to seem paranoid. But it was starting to feel like there was more to Granny Lyra than met the eye. Still, despite all the oddities, Granny Lyra's kindness kept everyone coming back. The children loved her stories, the elders appreciated her help, and the adults couldn't help but feel drawn to her gentle spirit. But deep down, everyone knew one thing for sure. Something about Granny Lyra wasn't entirely human. The question was, what was she really doing here? As the days turned into weeks, the town of Willow Creek continued to be enchanted by Granny Lyra's presence. Her kindness never wavered, and her deep, calming voice seemed to echo in the hearts of everyone she encountered. People would speak of her as if she were some kind of saint, and in many ways it seemed like she truly was a gift to the town. Yet the feeling of something being off never quite left the air. Alex, a curious teenager who lived in Willow Creek, had always been one of those kids who questioned things. He was smart, observant, and had a knack for noticing details that others might overlook. And Granny Lyra, with her mysterious charm, had caught his attention right from the start. He often found himself wondering what made her so different, what was hidden behind that sweet smile and gentle demeanor. One evening, as Alex was walking home from his part-time job at the local grocery store, he couldn't shake the feeling that something strange was happening at Granny Lyra's house. The sky was clear and the stars twinkled brightly overhead, but there was an eerie quietness in the air. He passed by her house, and as he did, something caught his eye. There, through the window of Granny Lyra's living room, Alex saw a soft, glowing light. It was faint at first, like the glow of a lamp, but there was something different about it. It wasn't a typical light. It pulsed in a way that seemed to breathe, as though it had a life of its own. Alex's curiosity got the best of him. He stopped in his tracks and stared at the window, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. He stood there for a few minutes, too nervous to approach the house directly. But the longer he watched, the more the light seemed to intensify. Finally, he made up his mind. He had to find out what was going on. Maybe it was nothing, but maybe it was something important. As quietly as he could, Alex made his way to the back of Granny Lyra's house, slipping between the shadows of the trees that surrounded the small yard. He knew that Granny Lyra was often up late, tending to her garden or simply staring at the stars. He also knew that no one else would be around to see him. His heart pounded in his chest as he carefully crept closer to the window. Peering inside, Alex's breath caught in his throat. What he saw was nothing short of astonishing. Granny Lyra was standing in the middle of her living room, her arms extended in front of her, palms open. Floating in midair, just inches from her hands, was a small glowing orb of light. It shimmered with an ethereal pulsating glow, and Alex could see faint, intricate symbols flickering across its surface. It was as though the orb itself was alive and communicating with her. But that wasn't the most shocking part. Granny Lyra wasn't just standing there with her hands outstretched. She was speaking to the orb, her voice soft and rhythmic, like she was having a conversation. Although Alex couldn't hear her words, there was a sense of urgency in the way she moved, a sense of connection. The air around her seemed to hum with energy, and the light from the orb reflected in her eyes, which now glowed faintly, just like the orb itself. Alex's mind raced. What was this? What was Granny Lyra doing? Was this some kind of alien technology? Or was she not what she seemed? The thought sent a chill down his spine. He instinctively took a step back, but in doing so, he accidentally stepped on a twig that cracked loudly beneath his feet. His heart skipped a beat. He had been caught. For a moment, everything stood still. Granny Lyra didn't move, at least not at first. Then slowly she turned her head toward the window, as though sensing his presence. Her eyes, now glowing brighter than before, met his gaze. She smiled, a calm, knowing smile, as if she had been expecting him all along. "Alex," she said softly, her voice carrying through the window as though there were no distance between them. "I knew you'd come." Alex froze. He couldn't move. The words felt like they were reaching directly into his mind. It was as if she had always known he was there, even before he had made his presence known. There was no fear in her voice, only understanding. Before Alex could say a word, Granny Lyra stepped toward the window and opened it. The glow from the orb seemed to fade, but the air still felt charged with an unexplainable energy. "Come inside," she invited. "I've been waiting for you." Alex hesitated. His mind was racing with questions. How could she have known? What was going on inside her house? And what was that orb? He looked around quickly, making sure no one else had seen him. The quiet streets of Willow Creek had never felt so eerie. With a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, Alex made his decision. He stepped into the yard and walked toward the open window. Granny Lyra stepped aside, motioning for him to enter. "I've been keeping something from you, Alex. Something important. But now it's time for you to know the truth." As Alex stepped inside, he noticed that the room was completely different from the one he had seen earlier. The walls were lined with strange symbols and artifacts that he couldn't even begin to comprehend. The air seemed thick with mystery. Granny Lyra's voice was gentle, but there was a deep seriousness to it now. "What I'm about to tell you is not something I wanted to share, but you found the first clue. You're part of something much bigger than you can imagine, and your role in this is crucial." Alex's heart raced. What had he gotten himself into? What was Granny Lyra hiding? And most importantly, what was her true purpose? She smiled again. That same knowing smile. "You'll soon understand, Alex. The truth has a way of revealing itself when the time is right." The first clue had been unveiled. But as Alex was about to learn, this was just the beginning of a much larger, far more dangerous journey. Alex stood still in the living room, his heart racing as Granny Lyra closed the window behind him. The air was thick with an energy he couldn't explain. The walls of her house, once seemingly normal, now appeared different, almost alive. Strange symbols were etched onto the wooden panels, glowing faintly with a light that pulsed in rhythm with his own heartbeat. Alex felt like he had stepped into a different world entirely. Granny Lyra motioned for him to sit down on the couch, the soft glow from the mysterious orb still hanging in the air like a presence of its own. The warmth of the room contrasted with the icy chill running through Alex's veins. His mind was in overdrive, questioning everything he thought he knew about this kind old woman who had become a motherly figure to the town. Granny Lyra looked at him with an expression that was at once kind and serious. She took a deep breath and spoke, her voice softer now, like she was sharing a secret only meant for Alex's ears. "I know this is a lot to take in, Alex, but the time has come for you to understand the truth. You were always meant to discover this." Alex's mouth went dry. "The truth about what?" he managed to ask, though his voice seemed to shake. Granny Lyra smiled gently, almost sadly. She looked at the orb floating near her and then back at Alex. "I am not who you think I am. I'm not even human, Alex. I've been living among you all for years, but my mission here has always been much bigger than simple kindness or friendship." Alex's breath hitched. He stared at her, trying to make sense of her words. "What do you mean? You're not human?" "No," she replied softly. "I'm an alien, sent here on a mission. I've come from a planet called Aranesh, far beyond the stars. My people were once like you, living in harmony with nature, spreading kindness and love among one another. But our planet is dying, Alex. Our resources are gone, our ecosystems collapsed, and our very survival is in question. That's why I'm here. My mission was to observe and understand humanity, to see if Earth could help save my people." Alex's mind was spinning. An alien? His entire life he'd never believed in anything beyond the stories in books or movies. But here, in this strange room with the glowing orb, with Granny Lyra, None of that seemed so far-fetched anymore. So, this time, all your kindness? It was just part of this mission? Granny Lyra nodded. Yes, in a way. But it wasn't just about gathering information. I wanted to understand humanity in a deeper way, to see if there was hope for my people. Your kindness, your love for each other, it's been a test to see if humans are truly capable of compassion, if you can unite and fight for what's right, if you can reach a level of unity and understanding that could help heal my planet. If that's possible, Earth could be the key to saving us. Alex felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Confusion, awe, anger, and even betrayal. So, you've been manipulating us? The whole town? His voice wavered with disbelief. Helping people, guiding us, it was all just part of some plan? No, Alex. Granny Lyra's voice softened and she stepped closer to him. It wasn't just manipulation. It was a way to show you that kindness is the strongest force in the universe. I wanted you to understand that true power comes from helping each other, from spreading love and compassion, even in the smallest ways. But it wasn't only about making you better people. It was about showing my people that it's possible for a civilization to rise again. I had to see if humanity was ready to share that power with the universe. Alex's mind was reeling, and yet deep down he understood. The strange events, the unusual things he'd noticed. Granny Lyra's actions had always been more than just random acts of kindness. She was a force of nature, planting seeds of goodwill and change in a world that so often seemed dark and divided. But what does that mean for us now? Alex asked quietly. If we're ready, then what happens next? Granny Lyra's face became somber, her expression full of both hope and sadness. It means that your world is about to change, Alex. The future of both humanity and Aranesh is tied together now. My people need your help. We have the technology to heal your planet, but we can't do it alone. Earth will be the cradle of a new era, one where humans and other civilizations work together. But for that to happen, you must be ready to welcome the truth, and you must be ready to open your hearts to the stars. It will take more than just kindness. It will take courage, unity, and a willingness to trust. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air. Alex's mind was still struggling to wrap itself around what he was hearing. This was more than a simple discovery. It was a call to action, a responsibility that he didn't know how to shoulder. But there was something in Granny Lyra's eyes, something that made him believe in the possibility of a better world. Is this why you've been so kind to everyone? Why you've helped the town so much? Alex asked. Exactly, Granny, Lyra answered, her voice gentle but firm. You see, I had to plant the seeds of kindness, of unity. Without that, humanity would never have been ready to help us. My mission was not only to observe, but to help you realize your potential. It's the only way my people will survive, the only way we can work together. Alex took a deep breath, absorbing everything she had just revealed. So, what happens now? Granny Lyra smiled softly, her expression full of hope. Now, Alex, you must decide what kind of future you want. You are part of something much bigger than you realize. You and the people of this town have been prepared, but the journey is just beginning. She looked at him, her eyes glowing ever so faintly. The truth is out there, Alex. The stars are calling. Will you answer? The night was quiet as Alex sat across from Granny Lyra in her home. The air was filled with the hum of energy that had surrounded them for hours now, an energy that seemed to come not just from the glowing orb, but from the very atmosphere of the room itself. The weight of the truth hung between them, and yet, something about it was strangely comforting. Despite the shock of learning about her true purpose, Alex felt an odd sense of peace. He had been part of something much bigger than himself. He could feel it in his bones. Are you ready for what comes next, Alex? Granny Lyra asked, her voice gentle but with a quiet resolve. She looked at him with a mixture of affection and concern, as though she already knew the burden her revelation had placed on his young shoulders. She had always known he was special. That's why she had brought him into this secret world of hers. Alex nodded, though a part of him still felt unsure. I don't know, he admitted. It's a lot to take in. You've been here doing all of this for us, for humanity, but now, it feels like everything is changing. Granny Lyra smiled softly, her eyes filled with wisdom. She looked up at the stars outside her window, her gaze distant as though looking at a future that only she could see. Change is inevitable, Alex, it always has been. But you must understand that change doesn't come without sacrifice. And it doesn't come without hope. Alex could feel the weight of her words, and yet, something in her tone reassured him. It was as though Granny Lyra had prepared for this moment for longer than he could possibly imagine. Will we be ready? Alex asked. Ready to help your people? Ready to help save both Earth and Aranesh? We already are, Granny Lyra replied. You've already proven it. You've shown me that humanity is capable of great things. You've proven that your hearts are capable of understanding, of unity, and of kindness. The rest of the world may not see it yet, but I do. And I've watched you all long enough to know that when the time comes, humanity will rise to the occasion. Alex felt a spark of hope ignite inside him, a belief that the world could be better, that humans could be better. He thought of the many times he had seen people struggle, but also the moments of incredible kindness and courage that arose from it. He thought of Granny Lyra's own efforts in the town, how she had quietly nudged them all toward goodness and empathy, as though planting the seeds for something greater. It had all been part of her mission, but now it felt like it had a purpose beyond just survival. It was about creating a future where kindness and unity could transform not only humanity, but the entire universe. But if you're going to leave, Alex said softly, the reality of the situation dawning on him. What happens to us? To humanity? Granny Lyra looked at him, her expression filled with both sorrow and pride. It's time for me to go, Alex. My mission is complete. The next chapter belongs to you and to Earth. My people will be waiting for the signal that humanity is ready to take the next step. And when that time comes, I'll be there to help guide you. But for now, you must take what I've given you and carry it forward. I have done all I can to prepare you. It's time for you to lead. The finality of her words hit Alex harder than he expected. It felt like he was losing someone he had only just discovered, someone who had shown him so much about the world and its hidden possibilities. But then, as he looked into her eyes, he realized something profound. Granny Lyra wasn't leaving because she had given up. She was leaving because she believed in humanity. She believed in him. Alex felt a pang in his chest, but also a deep sense of gratitude. Thank you, he whispered, not knowing if words could ever be enough. Granny Lyra reached out and placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch warm and comforting. Thank you for being the one who saw the truth. Thank you for believing in a better future. You are the hope I was looking for, Alex. You are the reason I never lost faith in this world. Remember, kindness is the key. It is always the key. Tears welled in Alex's eyes, but he quickly wiped them away. He didn't want to cry, not in front of her. Instead, he stood up, his heart swelling with a mix of emotions, sadness, gratitude, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. Granny Lyra had entrusted him with something powerful. She had shown him the way, and now it was up to him to lead the charge into a new era. As Alex turned to leave, Granny Lyra stood up beside him. The soft, glowing light from the orb flickered one last time, casting a warm, golden hue across the room. Granny Lyra placed her hand on his chest right over his heart. Remember, she said with a final, knowing smile, the universe is watching. Your actions here will ripple out far beyond this town, this planet. Don't be afraid to take the next step. The stars are with you, always. Alex nodded, his heart full of determination. I won't forget. Granny. Lyra walked him to the door, her movements graceful and serene. As he stepped outside, the cool night air greeted him and he turned to look at her one last time. She stood there, bathed in the soft light from the orb, smiling at him with the same warm expression that had made her so beloved in Willow Creek. And then, just as quietly as she had appeared, Granny Lyra began to fade. The glow from the orb became more intense and a soft hum filled the air. Alex watched in awe as the light surrounding her grew brighter and brighter until, in the blink of an eye, it vanished entirely. She was gone. The stars above seemed to twinkle more brightly than ever before, as though they too were bidding her farewell. Alex stood there for a long moment, the weight of everything she had shared with him settling into his heart. He knew his life and the world would never be the same. But now it was his turn to carry the torch. Humanity's future was in his hands, and he was ready to take the first step toward a better, brighter tomorrow. As he walked back toward town, Alex felt the warmth of Granny Lyra's teachings within him. He understood now that kindness, unity, and compassion weren't just words. They were the foundation of a future that could change the world. And he would do whatever it took to ensure that humanity was ready to rise to the occasion. The journey had just begun.